Hello, my name is Emily. I am the program advisor at Coaching Out the Box, and I will be your host for today's webinar. We have a really relevant topic today, all around using a coach approach in leadership, especially in a world interrupted, like we've all been experiencing the last little while. Before we get started, a couple housekeeping items. I would like to draw your attention to the Q&A button next to the chat button. As questions come up for you during the session, please put them in there and we'll have time at the end of today's webinar for questions. Also, we'll be using the chat for engagement throughout the webinar. I'm really excited. We have a really incredible dynamic speaker today and one of our fantastic coach facilitators to introduce the topic. We also have a special guest, an interview in the second half of the webinar. So without further ado, I'm super thrilled to introduce Joanne Peck as our presenter today. Joanne is a PCC coach, and she is also one of our amazing coach facilitators. Joanne, would you like to pop your camera on and say hello, and we can get started?
Hello, it is so good to be here. What a nice introduction. Thank you, Emily. That's lovely. And I was just watching the chat come through, so I should share. I'm calling in from the Niagara region in Ontario, which is close to Toronto. I see a few Mississauga, Toronto, a couple people from Ontario. So welcome to everybody. Thank you so much for taking time out of this very busy time of the year. It's great to be here with everyone. And I think back on my career. I was just looking at my bio, a 20 plus career in finance as a CPA. And I think I kind of remark and laugh at myself. How did I get from a 20-year career as a CPA to a coach? And it really is what I'm talking about today. And it's really that experience as a coach or as an accountant for those 20 years working with different organizations, different corporate structures, different industries that they represented, and seeing the impact of the challenges that leaders face, the challenges that they face, and then the challenges that result from that because of the lack of tools and lack of training, let's say, and lack of support. And so it was really that career as a CPA that sort of launched me towards looking to something better for myself personally as a career choice, but also for organizations themselves. And that's what led me to coaching. And I'm gonna steal a quote from Maya Angelou. She says that how did she frame it? She's looking to thrive more than survive, and to do so with humor and passion and compassion. I'm paraphrasing her on that. And that's really what led me to coaching, was this idea that we can do more as leaders. We can thrive and bear and not just survive them. And so that is why I'm a coach. That's why I'm passionate about what I do. And that's why I'm so excited to get to speak to you all today about these two topics. So I am going to share my screen now, and we'll get to look at some slides together. So let me make sure. Maybe Emily, can you just drop in the chat that we're looking at today's objectives? I just want to make sure we're looking at the right thing. Okay, so today's objectives. Thanks, Emily. I appreciate that. So challenges that leaders face, and it seems almost silly to try to put that into, a half-day seminar, let alone the little bit that I'm going to talk to it about. But we'll talk about some challenges, and I'm going to get your input around that as well. Coaching. What is coaching? What are the distinctions around coaching that make it, distinct from other modalities that you could use as a leader? We'll also talk about coaching and the sustainable changes that you can create taking a coach approach. I am going to share with you an impact story. Coaching Out of the Box themselves has their own evidence to support taking a coach approach with an organization. And as Emily said, we do have a graduate that is a leader, and we'll get to see and hear his perspective on that. So we've got about, let's see, we got about 55 minutes to go here. So let's just jump in and talk about these challenges in leadership. And when I first sat here, I was like, how could you possibly start to list these all down? And I thought, I'm not going to. I'm going to draw from you guys. And so from whoever is present that wishes to share, and you almost have to look at this. I found myself looking at this from two perspectives, a pre-COVID perspective and a post-COVID perspective. And so whatever strikes you, please, I welcome you to share in the chat. What are some of the challenges as a leader that you face? And perhaps you're not a formal leader or an appointed leader in your organization, but we are leaders in our roles in life. We can be informal leaders in our organizations. We could be leaders in our communities, in whatever we do, if we volunteer our time, leaders in our families. And so, yeah, I'm seeing some coming through already, pressure to deliver, figuring out the future of work. It's attrition and motivation, keeping staff motivated. Now they're all coming in. We face a lot as leaders. And the irony is, what gets us to a formal leadership position in an organization are the skills and the knowledge that we possess around the thing that we're doing, and that is what makes us so good at the jobs that we do. But that doesn't necessarily support us with the skills that we need when we become leaders of people. Those people become our focus. And so even the idea of leadership, we often enter into ill-prepared. Trust. Yes, are people doing the work? The virtual environment is impacting productivity, maintaining team well-being. There's just so many. Dynamic work environments. This is a key word. Yeah, pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, all mental well-being, resilience, coaching through life, motivation, uncertainty. Thank you so much, everybody, for sharing in the chat. These are significant challenges. Here is my summary, which captures a lot of what you've already shared. And I did break it down, pre-COVID, post-COVID. There's this word that we hear a lot now. This is an acronym, VUCA, this volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world that we operate in now. This was pre-COVID. We had this world of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. We've got this rapidly evolving technology that is so difficult to keep up with, anticipate, adapt to. We are on 24/7. If it's not with work, there's emails pouring through, there's Facebook, there's Instagram, there's, this 24/7 news cycle. We are bombarded with information. We have, maybe for the first time, multiple generations from diverse backgrounds. Thankfully, we've got this broad pool to draw from, and yet it creates its own level of challenge by our mindset around that, or it can. We've got high levels of disengagement. We saw this through the chat. Gallup, if any of you are familiar with this organization, they have reported year after year after year the high level of employee disengagement. In their most recent State of the Global Workplace report, they're reporting 80% of employees are actively disengaged. And that has a broad impact. And unfortunately, leaders play, and there is lots of evidence to support this, leaders do play a significant role in employee engagement. And so it's an issue for us as leaders. It's an issue for employees themselves. As I said earlier, we're trained to be the experts in our fields and the jobs that we do, but we aren't necessarily prepared or provided the training to be. We don't even need to be experts. We just even given the skills to work with people in a more meaningful and impactful way. And also communication, interpersonal challenges, all of these things exist. That's all pre-COVID. And then the whole world gets interrupted by this thing that we're in now. And things have changed dynamically and significantly. Where we work, how we're working, this remote work, while in some respects is maybe a welcome reprieve for many, it does create a strain on engagement, a strain on connection, a strain on communication. It adds to the fatigue of 24/7 connectivity. How do we shut off when our offices are in our homes? For the first, well, still, if I'm being honest, I get out of bed, I brush my teeth, I make a cup of coffee, and I sit down at my desk. And on some days I work till quite late in the evening. It's hard to find that balance. And, I'm sure we've all heard the Great Resignation. This is this term that's being bandied around, and there's lots of theories out there as to what is triggering it and what's causing it. But you cannot argue that as a result of COVID, the world, we are all reassessing what is actually really important to us and what is driving us. And this is a values conversation. It's not even about work. It's what do we value in life? And if we look to any of those items in the chat, the pre-COVID list, if as leaders or even employees, we are experiencing any of those things, you add to it the values check that COVID presents, we are going to start making different decisions. The other big piece that didn't often fall on the laps, let's say, of leaders in organizations is this idea of well-being. I'm not saying that it shouldn't, it just didn't get featured as importantly. And now with COVID, that idea of well-being, workplace safety, psychological safety, it is squarely in the realm, and I think as it should be, in employers' laps and in leaders' laps. And it does require a different approach. Prior to COVID, I lead a lot of workshops around stress management and resilience. And prior to COVID, I used to talk about the World Health Organization. It categorized stress as the health epidemic of the 21st century. And I know that COVID has obviously taken a front seat to that. However, COVID has exacerbated what existed before it. So I might even argue, without the facts behind me, but I would argue that it is still the health epidemic of the 21st century. And as I said, leaders play a significant role in supporting employees, but can also contribute to that stress. And so it is a lot of responsibility. And clearly there is a new approach or an extra, let's say, tool that we could start to use to help prevent this level of disengagement, to help prevent the stress, the negativity, the burnout, all of these issues that we are faced with as leaders. And so let's just take a moment. Let's just toss all of that aside. And I invite you to consider this quote by Marshall Goldsmith, it's his book, "What got you here won't get you there." And so there is an opportunity to look at how we are leading and to invite a different approach. And that is really where coaching kind of comes in. And so I will start a conversation around coaching with this definition. So coaching, first of all, as an industry has grown exponentially over the last 20 some odd years. And at one point in time, it was not a regulated profession. It is a regulated profession now. The International Coaching Federation is the organization that gives us our code of ethics that we agree to work by, that we abide by, in fact, that we even live by as coaches. It provides us with our core competencies that we integrate into our coaching. And they provide us with the definition of coaching, which you can read. I'll read it. Partnering with clients, customers, colleagues, or employees in a thought-provoking and creative process that inspires them to maximize their personal and professional potential. At first blush, it sounds, well, that's okay. That's a definition. And I will just spend a few minutes going a little bit deeper, because the definition and the nuances within the definition is part of what separates coaching from other modalities, let's say. And so partnering, first and foremost, from a coaching perspective and a coaching mindset, when you think about the word partnering, it is about a relationship between individuals. It's more than just an interaction. It is a partnership. It is a relationship where we view ourselves with our clients, customers, colleagues, our employees. We are equal. We are partners in whatever conversation we enter into. We approach it from this perspective of viewing each other and seeing each other truly as equals. It is how we engage in our conversations. This idea of thought-provoking, it's generative. It is, coaching is as much as it's a style of communication. It's an approach to communication that is thought-provoking. It is not about telling and sharing our wisdom and our knowledge. It is about asking for the wisdom and knowledge of the person we are in partnership with. It is recognizing that there is this, just to jump ahead, personal, professional potential. It's about recognizing that there is personal, professional potential that exists within that individual we are in partnership with. I don't know if any of you have come across in any of your training, reading, this idea of a Golem or a Pygmalion effect, but I would like to share it just for a second. So Golem, this idea of a Golem is, it's based on, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Mythology. And it's this little clay creature. Well, it's actually a big clay creature that is created out of clay. And it really has no innate drive, innate thought, innate action. It is given its action and its thinking from some external force. And then there's this idea of a Pygmalion. So in leadership development and training, they often refer to the Golem effect and Pygmalion effect. Golem effect being, when you think of that clay creature, when we see the people that we engage with as being golems, these clay creatures that we animate and give life to and tell what to do, if we don't see them as being resourceful or capable, they often live up to, it shapes our belief around that person, shapes how we interact with that person, which creates an environment that they may live up to. They may rise to the level of our low expectation. Whereas with the Pygmalion effect, it's the exact opposite. When we see the best, when we recognize there is this innate potential, when we hold out the best for them, it creates an environment where people rise to that. And that's the essence of coaching and our approach to this maximizing personal and professional potential. It is this recognition that it's there. And as partners with our clients, customers, colleagues, we invite that equal conversation to create this generative idea of creating what is possible, not from us telling, but from us drawing from a skill set, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So all of a sudden, this, one sentence definition of coaching takes on so much more meaning when you consider the elements of it. Just to visualize this distinction that we've just talked about. And again, I want to reaffirm that this is leadership we're talking about. And so we have to honor and recognize that leaders are managers, they are mentors, they are leaders for vision, they are managers for task and execution. And so those roles often require a level of telling, not asking. We sometimes just need to get a task done and we need to say to do it. We need to share the benefit of the experience and the wisdom that we have gained and can share as a mentor with the people that we are leading. And I just invite you to think back to all the challenges that we've talked about. Mentoring, managing, they work in some capacities, but we are faced with such prevalent and impactful challenges. We do need to look at a different approach. What got us there won't get it. What got us here won't get us there. That's this idea of coaching and this idea of partnering, of asking versus telling, of really tapping into the wisdom, recognizing that it exists and creating something with our teams. That is this modality and approach that I'm offering as a supplement to the toolbox of leaders, which is also managing, mentoring, delegating. Coaching is a way that we can maximize that personal and professional potential in our people. And I wish I could pause for questions because I'm throwing so much out there. That's the thing about a webinar. I just have to let you put them in the Q&A and we'll speak to that at the end there. Yes, thanks, Emily. Capture your questions and thoughts in the Q&A box, please, and we'll spend a little bit of time there. And so how can this approach to coaching support or approach to leadership support our people that we are leading? When you think about this, even this basic skill of just asking someone instead of telling them, what is required, and the mindset that we've talked about of how we view that person, the Pygmalion, the potential that is all there. When we engage in a conversation on that level, it becomes, we start to build, and we engage consistently on that level. We're slowly starting to build trust. When we are asking for their input instead of telling them how to do things, it's empowering to the people that work with us. They start to feel more trust. They start to feel more empowered. That idea of viewing people as equals with all of that potential that's available to them. When we as leaders start to see and interact with our people in that way, it creates a level of tolerance. And it is infectious. It starts to spread. People model our behaviors as leaders. And when we show the initiative in that level, it starts to build an engagement, build trust, build tolerance, build connection. Even in a work environment that is remote, we can connect with people through this level of conversation. There are some skills that we use in coaching, active listening being one of the main ones that fuels the conversation. When we are really actively there and listening to our people, we're not, thinking about the 100 things that we need to do as leaders, but we are there. This takes time to build, and it's so impactful to do it. When we start actively listening, we are just by listening to someone, we are acknowledging the value of who that person is. That builds all of these things. Once we've got this base of trust, tolerance, engagement, safety, connection, we start to see some incredible things. We can engage in deeper levels of conversation. Even difficult conversations get easier. We can build accountability in a way that is respectful and not hierarchical. That breeds this environment of alignment, innovation, leads to increased capacity. So all that simple approach of some simple skills of listening, acknowledging, leads to a deeper level of connection. All of these things can be generated from adopting this coach approach in our leadership styles. And it can support our teams move faster, further, quicker. So will it address all of these challenges we've talked about? Is it going to address a world that is constantly evolving from a technological perspective? Can it address another wave of COVID? Absolutely not. It's not going to fix that. But what it will breed is an environment of connection, trust, agency, empowerment, innovation, less stress that helps us respond to those external environments. You can tell I'm so passionate about this topic. And it is that 20-year career where I saw how it didn't work. And now on the other side of it, I see how impactful it can be. And so how does it create sustainable change? It creates, so what creates the sustainable changes is participating in some training around adopting a coach approach, going through a program like Coaching Out of the Box to learn these skills, to practice these skills, to take these skills back to your organization, to train other people in your organization on these skills. The mindset that I shared around just the idea of partnering and seeing the potential, it's not just a tool set or a set of skills. It is a mindset that we employ. And our mindsets shape our behaviors. Those behaviors shape our outcome. So we slowly start to shift our mindset around how we even engage with people. That changes our view of a situation, changes the dynamic of the engagements themselves. There's this trickle effect and this growth in impact of adopting a coach approach. And by bringing it into an organization from a leadership and trickling it out, it grows and it slowly starts to shift culture. Now, as I said, coaching out of the box does have its own evidence to support this. I think it was 2011, it launched a coach approach leadership program with a very large healthcare organization, 150,000 employees. And so they set up a framework that they could measure the success of the program. They did pre and post surveys around this program that they rolled out with initially the leadership team. And so pre-survey, post-survey around this framework, they conducted focus groups. They had all of this data then analyzed by an objective external consultant. And these are, the top, how many got there? 7 from this particular engagement, and there have been others. So what did this organization experience as a result of bringing a coach approach to their leadership styles? Improved listening led to, when we listen to each other and we feel heard, we are more inclined to stay open and engaged in a conversation. Improved communication, improved ability to give feedback. All of that creates an environment where, as I said earlier, you can engage in these deeper, maybe even more difficult conversations, improved conflict resolution. It created this positive impact on relationships, which all of this leads to an improved team dynamic, improved team communication, which all leads towards higher levels of engagement, which, as we know, there's tons of research out there that supports engagement to innovation, agility, resilience, return on investment, if you want to put it to a numbers thing, but improved employee well-being as well. And what was interesting and not surprising about this was, while it was originally brought in for the leadership and specific teams, infectious spread, nod to COVID, here is our antidote to the infectious spread of disengagement. It is adopting this coach approach. It spread out throughout this organization, even to, satellite groups wanted to learn more and to start using this approach. And so that training grew. And there are even still groups that are going through learning these skills to take back to their organization. So in fact, this program was so successful, they ended up presenting the results to Harvard, to their coaching, to an organization at the Harvard Education or Center for Coaching. Excuse me, I'm getting that name wrong, but they did present that out to a Harvard group around the success of this program. And as I said, they have launched and successfully executed multiple programs since. And so I don't just want you to take my word for this. I could talk about this all day. Who I really want you to get to meet is actually, as I said, one of our, this close to graduating. So Mohammed El Kassas, he is a student that has completed the program. He's a co-founder and chairman of the IFSS group and a director of allied trading, and so please let me stop sharing. Mohammed, thank you so much for being here.
Pleasure is all mine. Thank you for having me here.
Great. So you have grown 2 very large and still growing organizations, and you have a beautiful vision for even the region you're operating in. I would love to have you share that with the group.
Thank you so much. And first, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night to those that are on my time zone. It's 10:30 p.m. in this part of the world, but it's good to be here. Thank you so much for the introduction. I'm sure I'm not going to say better than what you did say, but I will only give part of my experience for the past 6 months that I've been with you. But first, start by introducing myself. I'm a holder of a master's in business administration out of the Maastricht School of Business. My study then was mostly about Africa. I was very much attracted, or it was always a part of a dream as a kid to explore this part of the world. And so I started my journey by starting my businesses within and across Africa. And I started 2 businesses. The first one in the early 2000s, which is started as a security business, turned into a smart building solution business. that now covers 3 regions in Africa, the East and the West and the North of Africa. So Egypt, Kenya, and Nigeria. The company today employs approximately between 60 to 65 employees across the region as well. Okay. Other than that, I also manage a retail business in Kenya, partially in Egypt as well. And we represent international brands like Nike and others as well. So we also own our retail stores across the region.
Yeah.
This company employs within the average of about 50, 60 in this part of the world, and a good couple of hundreds in Egypt as well.
Yeah. So, you know, when I hear you talk and I think, wow, so clearly already a leader, not of one, but of 2 organizations, 2 growing organizations. You've got your masters, you've got so much experience to draw from. What was it that brought you to coaching as an approach you could employ?
So let me start by answering this question by a quote that I really appreciate by Jack Welch. And when we are made leaders, we weren't given the crown to, we weren't given the crowns. We were given a responsibility to draw the best in others. And that was always an equation that I always had to fit in to build the business, because without the people, we always look at it from a perspective of investments, but without the people, it doesn't really work. So I did start the journey in the 2000s, early 2000s, established the third business. And of course, as usual, the first thing that comes in mind when we start any business is the investments, the money, the funds, the investors. How do we raise the capital? And as the years passed, the investments were easier. The confidence were easier in listening to me, hearing the dream, the vision. The challenges definitely were increasing over the years because you needed people to manage. And by people managing, you needed this across the board. And so the team was growing even bigger. And you could realize that you want to grow bigger. It's not just about the funds and the money and the capital. It's about the people. It's their ability to actually understand the vision, to fit within the vision. And you had to withdraw it from within them to actually find what is it that is needed for them to actually get the best out of them. Definitely the empathy towards people grew because that's a skill set that is needed for any leader. But you could see the struggles, the challenges, and you would see them going from task to task with the passion to shift that task forward, but still challenged. And you would think, what would be best? You have investors to answer to, and you have the numbers that you really need to achieve, but at the same time, these people really need to move forward. Mm-hmm. And if every single task needs to come back to you, then definitely it will be a big challenge to move a bigger team. So you needed to find ways and tools and resources to dig within these people, find their struggles, and find what are these tools that could really help. And hence, I started to look for it. And I think COVID was a big answer. As much as we all saw COVID as a challenge, and you did a very big presentation about it, I saw it as a struggle. We all did, right? We all were locked up, closed, not sure of what the next steps are. I took that opportunity to actually see deeper into it as not be it a struggle, but it's an opportunity. I sat more with the team. We had more time to spend together. Maybe in Africa, we were not really on full lockdown and had to stay home like many other countries in the world. But we were able to see each other in office maybe at 50%, and we were able to know one another better. And that know one another better is such an important thing. And it allowed me to understand what we really need to bring out from others as well. And so coaching was a good answer. I actually thought, why not? Let me start this journey of coaching, seeing what that is and how that could help the team. And hence I knocked at your door, and you were the first class we had in coaching out of the box in the 555, right? So that's what really brought me to coaching.
Right. And coaching out of the box in particular, what was it about coaching out of the box that you found interesting?
So I went into a couple of, well, first you Google, and thanks to the internet, there's a lot of these things. I started reading about the ICF more, getting into more details about the International Coaching Federation, and that linked me to several. Wow. but I met an amazing human who was able to give me 30 minutes or 45 minutes out of time.
Allison.
Alison, thank you so much.
She's our
Alison,
founder. Yeah, she's the
she is
founder of Coaching Out of the Box.
and we sat together and had a good 1 hour discussion online. I think it actually extended beyond the 1 hour.
Yeah, wow.
And I think she was very inspiring. She actually saw the leader, I think, in me and told me it would be amazing. And she gave me the case study of the case study you actually just presented right now. And I listened to it and I thought maybe I could grow to have 500,000 people that we could change things, and let's see what coaching could give me.
Yeah, it's
So
wonderful.
that's how I landed with Coaching Out of the Box.
You do your research. I love that. And I love that about you in class as well, was the questions that you brought and the thinking that you've put behind it. And so towards that, then, what did you think you were going to learn from the program, or what skills did you think were going to come from this for yourself?
Coming from you, Joanne, that question, right? As I said, you were the first class.
Yeah.
And as I said, again, empathy is one of very important skill sets of a leader. And so I was really digging deep into what could help me support my team better.
Okay.
And the first class, I took that big definition of what coaching out of the book, of what coaching is all about.
Yeah.
And it was mirroring your coachee, finding the potential, the resources in them, and the walk of life they come from.
Yeah.
To help them find or evolve their own solutions to their challenges and struggles, and hence empower them.
Mm-hmm.
I loved that definition, but then you said you would do that definition by questioning, by listening, by holding back, by being curious. I was like, are you serious? And we had that short chat after our first or second class, I think, in which I don't have time. I need people to move forward, right?
Yeah.
And they come to me, I need to tell them, this is what you need to do. And please, let's get this done. We have money to utilize better, efficiently. We have investors to respond to, return on investments to talk about. I can't sit here for 1 hour making sure that you guys have those questions from me to you, rather than you give me the questions, I give you the answers, which is your last 2 slides about what coaching is versus mentoring or consulting.
Yeah.
And wow, the journey was amazing during those 6 months. From this, being skeptical about this whole coaching thing, to realizing that questioning is such a strong tool, listening, supporting, accepting, holding back. I never used to hold back. Mm-hmm. I would want to be fast. I would meet someone in the corridor and say, what is it you need? This is it. Here you go. Let's go. But all of a sudden it was, tell me more. What if? What could we do better? And the what question starts. And I think it's part of my daily life. The what has become 50 to 100 times in my day now, asking questions to make sure that I evolve the best out of them and empower them to make the best decisions. And so these coaching skills has really brought us to, I wouldn't say I've seen the results, but I see a team taking their own decisions and being empowered to make better teams beyond them.
Yeah. And that was going to be my next question to you was, what impact have you seen from the time? Because it does take some time. It is some investment and it takes work to, so I guess I got 2 questions for you. Work to shift in even that mindset. I'm going to come back to that one in a second, but I did want to ask you, what have you seen as the impact, to the business, to your teams around you? And I think you've just shared that. So what is it about your teams that you're seeing emerge now from taking this questioning piece?
I would not be fair to myself to say that my team is feeling more confident, because they were always confident around me. They were always confident around the managers as well, but they are less reluctant to ask questions and to find the solutions themselves, and know that they're accepted, they are more supported, because with a smile on your face, you're questioning and you're trying to remove the manager's or the boss's hat and put on that coaching empathy to ensure that they come out with the best out of them. So I think they're empowered. They have more space to take better decisions. So that's what I'd say it goes. And then it starts to hit as a domino effect to the subordinates and then throughout the team. So I would say that I'm already beginning to feel some of the managers, the head of departments that work with me, already taking some of those coaching skills forward, to ask questions, to wait, to give patience, to give space.
Yes, amazing. And well, there's that infectious spread, right, that we talked about. It's inevitable for people to mirror what their leaders are showing them, and to that permission, as you talked about, this permission. It's okay to ask those questions. You're creating this environment where it is safe to explore, to create, to provoke thought and awareness. As a result of that, how has that impacted you as a leader?
More space for me to coach more people and myself to grow not only this organization or the second, but others as well. So I'm believing that what is happening right now is that this awesome virus spreading around us of coaching is actually, if it continues the way it's going at the moment, you could have leaders in other positions that run the organizations and spread not only one or two, but 3 or 4, and have further branches around the continent. Because from the growth we have reached to, we desire to go further. And people is always the answer. And so coaching has really helped that move forward, because you plan, you have the action planning, you have clearing the way for them. You have used most of these skills in the way they reciprocate with us. And so they reciprocate with others as well. Right. So I do believe we with more endorsing this into our system and the blood of the organization, we could move the organization itself into many other smaller ones.
Yes, and that line.
Investment in numbers that lots of leaders want to hear about.
Say that again. I'm sorry, I kind of cut you off there.
And hence the return on investment and the numbers that lots of leaders love to hear about, right?
Yeah. Well, and as you said, I get to coach all day, and that's just a gift as far as I'm concerned. But as a leader of an organization, you are responsible to directors, stakeholders, banks, there's a lot of external stakeholders that do want a return on investment. And you cannot ignore that comes from this type of an approach. So another element that we talked about, and you shared a little bit about, was this idea of, it's not just the skills that you'll learn, it's not just the tools that you can employ, but there's also a shift in a mindset and a way of being. In going through the program, would you be comfortable sharing your experience with that?
Of course I would. Before I go into the being part and how this changes us, I'd like to go back. Coaching doesn't only help with your internal stakeholders, your staff. It actually spreads to your external stakeholders. You just mentioned banks. You mentioned clients. You mentioned a lot of others that are a responsibility, suppliers, vendors, everything.
Yeah.
Your approach towards the communication you have with these people changes.
Yes.
Holding back, allowing others to say what they have to, asking more in-depth questions, make you realize that, well, what you deal with within your organization are humans, but also what you deal outside your organizations are humans. And you gain that further self-awareness that they also struggle, right? COVID is not only the effect on my employees, but it's also on my other external stakeholders.
Yeah.
So I would say definitely it is creating an understanding and further empathy to in and out.
Yeah.
How we go to being.
And it's so, I mean, that's the personal and professional. We are whole human beings. We bring ourselves everywhere we go. And it does, this coach approach it's this mindset and way of being that it works in all relationships, not just as a leader. And thank you for offering that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Regarding being, well, the 6 months were intensive, a fast track, right?
Yeah.
But I always like to go back to the third module we had, which was personal groundworks.
Mm-hmm.
And personal groundworks was a class I really appreciate myself. That was more insight and affirmation and confirmation to, I think, the person I am, and more confidence that I'm on the right path, but with more in-depth to how you know yourself better, and lots of self-awareness, as I say. The one model that I always remember and like to share is the do have be model. Do have be model, and the do have be model is where we all fall captive of, right? We all grow into as babies. We tend to be natural, hopeful, fearless, loving, caring. But with the world we get into, we definitely get into being fearful, worried, concerned, accepted or not accepted. We change, and that changes a lot of us. We learn to be an 8 to 5. We learn to wait for the end of the month, drag that salary out of us, and life continues. We fail to look for within us and be us. And that becomes the be, do, have model. And the be, do, have model is us being who we need to be and knowing the purpose, our objectives. What did we want as goals in our lives? And that you need to spread to everyone around you. Because if we don't start by being who we really want to be and going back to our natural selves of being hopeful, motivated, loving, caring, knowing that there is a value in giving back to everyone that meets us and touching them, we will never understand that we live to never own anything that we have around us. It's not a belonging. We need to give back. And then we do and have. Then the outcomes are just amazing. And the byproduct of this is profits to our organizations. Profits to our organization. So I'm not forgetting about the profits to my organization, and I shall not, because I'm responsible to make sure that return is there. But people need to become. And once they are, the amount of output becomes amazing. Coaching really did help me to dig deeper, understand this, and come up with the best self I could. I'm not saying I'm the best yet, but I am driving myself to a direction I feel peaceful about. Yes. And that is important.
And so that is speaking to the whole program, that do have be model. When we realize that thinking of, if I do this, I will have this, and then I can be this, it is so backward. And so even, the program, the full program at Coaching Out of the Box, that personal groundwork, really, that model it's an impactful one. If we connect with being, what we do and what we have as a result of doing that are the byproducts of, centered around that being. And so what an unexpected surprise from someone who didn't know that they were going to have the time to ask versus tell, and look where you landed at the end of the program as a result of participating through not just the skills themselves and the coaching model, which are, that's the other beauty. They're simple, they're easy, you can use them in any conversation, but then that whole other part of the being. So thank you for sharing that. We've got just another minute left, and I would love to just keep you talking all day. Is there anything else that you would like to share before we hand it over to Emily again?
Nothing much. I think as I do continue this journey that I have started with my leadership, involving coaching in it, I will come out with results. I would love one day to share these results when there is a final outcome of it. I feel it now. I'm touching it now. Not yet got to the final point, but I believe we will. I would definitely be happy to put up a small case study and pass it all to everyone that has watched this today and heard this today. But thank you. Thank the rest of the team for all the 6 months we've had together.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your time. And, it's like 10 o'clock. Is it 11 o'clock now for you almost? So thank you so much for cutting into your personal time and sharing such a great experience with all of us. And it was a pleasure having you in the class. And I'm just thrilled that the outcome has been what it has been. So thank you, Mohammed.
Thank you so much. I was challenged with time. I wish I could say more, but
I know. Well, we did get an extra 5 minutes. So that was
I know, that was awesome. Joanne, thank you so much. To everybody watching from every part of the world, it's such a pleasure to be with all of you. And I hope I was able to add some value to all of you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mohammed. And so, Emily, we're going to hand it back to you, girl.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Joanne, and to Mohammed too for such an informative session and really thought-provoking interview. And thank you, Mohammed, for sharing your experience. That was super powerful. We will have some time at the end, a few minutes at the end for questions. And also Joanne and Mohammed said that they will stay on after the hour to get to any discussion that was missed in the Q&A or in the presentation. And so now I want to share a little bit more about coaching out of the box. This handy slide is an overview of who our students are and who uses coaching out of the box. You can see that we are all over the world working with over 30,000 people from 38 countries in various industries and job roles. So we definitely have something for everyone. Regardless of where you are in your coaching journey, whether you're a certified professional coach, a coach seeking certification, you are wanting to use a coach approach in your leadership like Mohammed, whatever it may be, we have solutions for you. We're happy to speak with you about our programs or coaching in general anytime. Our calendar link, we'll put it in. Well, it is in the slide deck, and that will be shared after the webinar recording, and we'll put it in the chat as well as our email to contact us. These are some of our upcoming program offerings at Coaching Out of the Box. The first Certified Diversity Program intake, it's almost finished. The last class is next week, and it's been super successful, and we're already getting rave reviews from the first cohort. So we announced 2 more intake dates in the new year, as well as our next intake for the Fast Track program is starting in January. As I mentioned, we're always happy to speak with you at any time. Please feel free to reach out to us. And I'll take this moment, hopefully it's not putting you on the spot, Jeanette, but I want to introduce our new program advisor, Jeanette. When you contact us and you reach out, you'll be hearing from her. If you wanted to pop on and say hello, there she is.
Hello, thank you. No, I was a little bit ready for on the spot. It's so great to see how many people from around the world were on here today and hear from Joanne and Mohammed. Both of you were super inspiring, and it's great to be in a supportive role. So I've got some big shoes to fill, but I'm looking forward to joining.
Awesome, thanks, Jeanette. And so now we have some time for questions. I didn't see any questions in the Q&A. However, there was something earlier on, and Ronali, if you're still on, maybe you can speak a little bit more towards this. You mentioned mentoring versus coaching. If you had a minute to speak to the differences in your opinion, that would be great. If you could, if you're still here, or if Joanne, you have a sense of this question, it would be great.
Yeah, I saw that question come through and I wanted to answer it right away. So mentoring is about drawing from, it's what came before. So as leaders, we have experience, we have knowledge, that we've acquired over our experience, over our time doing whatever it is that we're doing. And it is this thing that we are offering over to whomever our mentees are. In coaching, even, we have a mentor-mentee relationship where we support on and give advice around how people could, from a coaching perspective, hit their core competencies. So mentors are sharing that information. It's when you imagine there's this bundle from the mentor that is handed over to the mentee. Coaching is almost the opposite, in that we suspend what it is that we know. And in fact, it's invited to let go of what we know. The less of ourselves as a coach that we bring to the conversation, the better, because it gives space for us to really partner with the other person, the client, colleague, employee, whomever we are coaching with, to bring their bundle to the room. And they might not know what that looks like or what that is, but when we truly believe in they do have the answer, we become experts, not in what we know about the situation, but in a process and an approach. Mohammed talked about it, active listening, really focusing in on we didn't talk about the model today, but drawing from the coaching out of the box coaching model, we actively listen. We focus on our clients. We ask them questions, not questions we know the answer to. They're called clean questions. So there's no personal bias creeping in. We are asking a question with the idea of provoking thought and creating awareness. And so it's difficult to suspend what we know. As a mentor, we're invited to share all of what we know to support that development and growth. In coaching, it's the opposite. We draw from, and as Mohammed shared, what the heck, I'm not even going to have time to do that. And yet that investment in that person just generates so much. So that's the big distinction. And Ronalie, if you have more or another question, I'd be happy to speak to it further. Or if you want to add to that question, please feel free to go ahead. And just scrolling down, there's some stuff that's come in.
Also, Joanne, I saw a comment from Christina when Mohammed was speaking about his experience speaking with Allison and deciding to take the program. And Christina said, a great testimony to the value of someone believing in us. I wonder, in consideration of a coach approach, if you could speak a little bit to that as well, too.
Yes. Well, and that's that Pygmalion effect that I was talking about earlier. When we believe that people have innate talents, innate wisdom, ability to learn and grow, we engage on a different level with that person. We are open ourselves to what that person has to offer. We're curious about what that person has to offer. And that, if you want to talk about creative, energetic communication, that in and of itself is a way of sharing. It's a form of communication, an acknowledgement. When we see that, we are inspired. When we are the receiver, think about the last time you had someone engage with you where they knew you could do it. And they said, I know you can do this. And they offered you a reason why you could do it. You rise to that. And that's coaching. Coaching is that mindset that sees that capacity and helps that person connect to it. I could just go on all day.
And I know we've got you all day.
We've got one more minute to go. So I guess if there's any other questions, and I just want to say thank you again, Mohammed, to you for your time and all of your wisdom and what you brought to our session today. So appreciative. And Emily and Stephanie and Jeanette, I said it earlier, you guys are the glue to this organization and the brains behind it all. So thank you three for being in the background always to support us.
Amazing. Thank you, Joanne.
Thank you to everybody for being here.
Awesome. And yeah, so if anybody who is still on, if you want to pop in the chat what you're walking away with from today's session, we'd love to hear. And again, thank you so much, Joanne, for facilitating this conversation, and to Mohammed for sharing your experiences. And of course, I always have to give a huge shout out to Stephanie for your never-ending support, very both technical and emotional. And I'm going to stop the recording now. Mohammed and Joanne said that they would stay on for a few minutes afterwards. So if anybody has any lingering questions or comments or thoughts, we can do that now. So thank you all again for joining, and we will see you on the next one.
Thank you. I'm just reading some of these beautiful comments. I'm walking away.